Welcome to Charlie India Talk Sports. As always, I'm your host, Charlie India, and as always, I really appreciate you watching. It means the world to me that we're getting to share sports like this. I get to talk about something that means a lot to me, hopefully means a lot to you. So I really appreciate you all watching. But before we get too deep into it, let me say one thing. As you can see, my devastating good looks are quickly coming back, to their normal glory that they were. Still having a little bit of trouble, actually a lot of trouble working my wing here. Got some motion back, so might get some of the hand gestures back, but overall it's going to be a little bit of work getting this thing back to my usual, 98 mile an hour fastball style. But anyway, thanks again for everybody who's been, giving me the prayers and thoughts and all that kind of stuff. Really do appreciate it, and we're going to stay the course and things are going to work out. Every week, though, I tell you guys that you can contact me at charlie.india@yahoo.com. And I don't mean just for show topics and, things like that. I mean for things that other ways you can help the show. And one of those ways is to let a brother know that when you wear a black shirt and sit in front of two black TV screens, that you kind of look like the big giant head of sports. I saw this thing last week. I saw the last one out at 105, and I thought, oh my gosh, I should be like an alien from another planet, the big giant head. So if you're going to, use the email address. Contact me to let me know what you think, and contact me when you let me know, hey, dude, really about that shirt. Got to do something. Got to help a brother out every once in a while. I fired my wardrobe person since then. She's gone on to way better things than this, and I'm going to try to do better in the future for you. So let's get into some sports. I got a quick fun fact for you. I love these kind of dumb little things that don't really matter in the world, but are just funny. And this is one of them to me. If Michael Phelps, the swimmer, the Olympic swimmer, he swam in the Olympics. If Michael Phelps were a country unto himself, he would rank 35th all time in gold medals against all the countries in the world that have ever competed in the Olympics, ahead of 97 other countries. That's how many gold medals this dude has. He's outranking countries all time by himself. And the good thing about Phelps being a country unto himself is you can feed that whole country with one stop at Subway. Can't go wrong with that. So, we've now talked about swimming on the show. Probably never happen again. So, we're covering all the kind of sports. So now, let's get to some real sports. The NBA playoffs are on TV every single night. The first round, all the games are always on. I love that because if you like basketball, this is the time of year for you. Some of the series are over, but not without incident and not without affecting the way the rest of the tournament is going to go. Cleveland swept the Boston Celtics, which is no surprise because that's what a number 2 team is supposed to do to a number 7 team. The games were mostly pretty close, and Boston put up a good fight. They were just outmanned and outgunned in this series right now. We'll talk about their future later. But they weren't blowouts, and that's what I respect. Boston got in there and hung with what I believe is the best team in the East. However, the last win came with a cost that might well change the landscape of the rest of the playoffs. Kevin Love, the 6'10", walking double-double, number 2 of the big 3 for Cleveland, got tangled up with Celtic big man, surfer goof, Kelly Olynyk. I hope I'm saying your name right, Kel Olynyk. They were going after a loose ball. Their arms got tangled up, and trust me, I have some experience with arm injuries. And Love ended up in the hospital and with a labrum, which from what I'm learning now is part of the shoulder, that was torn completely off the bone. Surfer Goof says, I didn't mean to do it. It was just one of those things going for, it was a play. It was a basketball play. But if you look at it, it wasn't. Both of them were. You box out underneath the basket and all that kind of stuff, and you do get tangled up in there, some elbows flying, all that kind of stuff. I get that. These dudes were 15 feet from the basket, running away from the basket, chasing a loose ball. The ball was here. Love was here. Surfer Goof was here. So they had no chance. So Surfer Goof was basically trying to hang on and yank and pull Love off the ball. That's not a basketball play. Just not. It's not boxing out. It's not it. So the dude went out and he hurt him. And you can say what you want. That's the only chance that Olynyk's ever going to have to affect a championship in the NBA. So Love has season-ending surgery. The big three of the best team in the East are now the big two. Congrats to whichever team comes out of the West. It just got a whole lot easier for you to get a championship. With the number 1 seed Atlanta Hawks showing their true colors and losing 2 to a sub-500 8th seed Brooklyn team, they headed back to Brooklyn for Game 6. And that just makes it easy to see that Cleveland was the best team in an already weak division, which now just got weaker. And even with the loss of Love, though, they're still my favorite to come out of the East because Chicago hasn't done a whole lot to impress me yet. So we're going to have to see how this affects it. I think this is going to be a big deal, a real big deal. Washington swept Toronto with, which was a 4-5 matchup, but never a match at all. I've never seen such a mismatch of a 4-5. It was horrible. The thing that got me the most was the last game. Toronto, I get that you're down 3 games to nothing. I get that you had home court advantage and you lost both of your games on your own home court. And you're playing Game 4, your elimination game on the road. But for crying out loud, show some pride. Show some pride in yourself. Toronto, you're a professional team. You're playing for pay. I know it's Canadian money, but still it's money. On a national, 2 nations TV, and this is how you roll up with your backs against the wall? You lose by 31 points? That was ridiculous. It was embarrassing. They should fine Toronto. I mean, other than having them be in Toronto. Chicago, so anyway, that series, I've never seen such a 4-5 blowout. So Washington moves on. Chicago was cruising pretty easy and had jumped out to a 3-0 lead, but allowed the Milwaukee Bucks to stay in Game 4, and the Bucks ended up winning it on a last-second play with Love was kind of looking around. Derrick Rose was kind of looking around. Got this Love thing on my mind. Derrick Rose kind of looking around on defense, and they ended up getting a win, the Bucks, in Game 4. Then they go to Chicago's home court in Game 5 and beat them. Chicago's losing to Milwaukee on their home court. However, there was no way that this was going to be a problem. Chicago was going to win this series, and boy, did they do it. Chicago won the series last night by almost doubling up the Bucks in Milwaukee. The score was 120-66. And they got all the stats, the 4th biggest loss. It was huge. It was as bad as the Toronto game, but at least Milwaukee hung in there and fought for a couple of games, which is much more than Toronto did. But Chicago won the series. They got it, but this is not how the Bulls should be playing right now. This is it's all on the line, baby. It's tournament time. You got to go. You let Milwaukee win 2 games against you and take this thing to Game 6. Play like you mean it. Play like the chips. Let them fall where they go, but play like you mean it, and get the lesser teams out. Because it's the next round, the rounds after that you're going to be tested. This shouldn't even have been a test, and it was. But instead of letting Milwaukee take it to Game 6, and good for the Bucks, I'm telling you, not so much for the Bulls. And Chicago, you got Cleveland, so things are getting a little bit easier for you, but they're not going to get easy because they still got LeBron, they still got Irving. So I'm really anxious to see Chicago and Cleveland go at it. I think that series starts Monday night. Like we talked about last week, Golden State had no problem with New Orleans. Golden State's, right until somebody proves that they're not, Golden State's the team to beat. And they swept New Orleans 4-0. But like I also told you, keep an eye on Anthony Davis. And he didn't disappoint. Anthony averaged 31.4 points for the 4 games, 10.8 rebounds. He shot more than 50% from the field, and he averaged 3 blocks a game. I'm telling you what, keep an eye on this kid. He's going to be something special. And I just love it. This is the next player that I'm generally excited about. Haven't been excited about one. Obviously LeBron, but since Shaq was out there, now I'm kind of keeping an eye on Anthony Davis. Houston Rockets and Memphis Grizzlies both advanced pretty basic 4-1 series. They did what they were supposed to do. The next series for both of these teams is going to be the one that shows how good or how bad they really are. Memphis gets to go against the hottest team in the league, like we said, Golden State, and Houston is still waiting to see who pulls off the best series of the first round, the LA Clippers against the San Antonio Spurs. Let's talk about that one. when the Spurs lost the first game, or the last game of the season, I'm sorry, when they lost the last game of the season, got knocked down to the 6th seed, I knew that whoever had them, which would be the number 3 seed LA Clippers, it was going to be a tough matchup. It was going to be it was bad luck that you're the 3rd seed and you're going to have to go against San Antonio. The Clippers won the first game by 15 points, and everyone was all up in arms. And every time San Antonio loses a game, it's always the same thing. What's wrong with the Spurs? Father Time's caught up with them. You know, all this blah, blah, blah. What happened was they were playing a good team on the other team's home court. Don't take anything away from the Clippers. In the NBA, though, they say that the series doesn't start until the home team loses. For the very next game, what's wrong with the San Antonio Spurs was replaced by the San Antonio Spurs beating the Clippers in LA. And guess what? Game on. Now it's a series. They take the lead in the series when they go back to San Antonio. San Antonio wins Game 3. Game 4, however, goes to the Clippers. In San Antonio, the Clippers get a win. It was a sloppy game. Boy, it was a sloppy game. But now that makes it down to a 3-game series with LA having a 2-1 home court advantage. Getting a little tight, getting a little fun, getting a little exciting to watch. Game 5 was a great game. I follow Skip Bayless on Twitter, who is a San Antonio Spurs fan. And no, I don't quite have Twitter all worked out, so don't start following me yet because I know you want to. But once I get it all worked out, we'll go into all that nonsense. But I was following him, and he was just going nuts. You know, what he's supposed to. That's what. I don't care if you're a professional guy. I don't care if you're on TV talking about sports. I don't care if you do a stupid YouTube show. If you're not excited and passionate when your team's in the playoffs and the back's up against the wall and the things going on, you know, that's when you just turn into a fan. And that's the fun of it. Be a fan. Have some fun. But he was hilarious. But anyway, Game 5 was a sloppy game. But the Spurs got the win. They won again in LA. And now they go from what's wrong with the Spurs to having a 3-2 series lead. Now it's really getting fun because now they're going back to San Antonio with San Antonio having a chance to close out the series. Game 6 was on last night. I was really interested in this. It was a showcase that was going to spotlight what I think was wrong with the LA Clippers. And I was going to see whether they were going to stand up or not, whether they're, you know, backs against the wall, win or go home. This was it for them. On the road against the reigning world champions on national TV. LA, it was put up or shut up time. This is where you change your image from glitz and glamour to a championship contending team. Guess what? They are a glitz and glamour team. They are known more for the ESPN highlights than they are for playoff wins, so Game 6 came in big, and the Clippers stepped up and won a close, hard-fought game, which at one point, even in the last minute, was down. The lead was only down to 1 point. A couple controversial calls, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to argue the calls. It was just a good game and everything else. And LA won. They reared up their backs. They found a way to win, and they got it done on the other team's home court in an elimination game. You can't ask for more than that, except for this. That puts Game 7 back in LA. Both teams are going to be up against it. We knew this was going to be a tough matchup. Both teams have been on the mat. Both teams have gotten up and fought back. The Clippers took a big step last night to become a team that is going to have to be taken seriously as the playoffs continue. They have plenty of talent. They have a great coach. But to date, they've always found a way to come up short. And now it's their time. Game 7 against the Spurs should be a great one. Both teams are in a win or go home mode. No excuses. Do it. Don't do it. Get it done. Nothing. I love it. Clippers are at home. The lights are shining, baby. This game will affect how we perceive the Clippers, to see whether they step up and become a powerhouse or a perennial 3rd or 4th place team in the NBA. There's nothing to me more exciting in sports than a Game 7 matchup because it is all or nothing. No excuses. We came out flat. Ain't gonna fly no more, brother. You gotta play the game. Game 7. Cannot wait for this thing. I love this. Is my favorite thing in sports. One last note on basketball. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, winner of 3 consecutive NCAA national championships at UCLA, 6 NBA championships, 1 with the Milwaukee Bucks and 5 with the LA Lakers. And still the all-time leading scorer of the NBA. Just got released from the hospital after experiencing chest pains. I think it was the second time that he's been in the hospital. Kareem, thoughts and prayers are with you, big man. Get well, stay well. Nicknamed the captain, Jabbar is one of the reasons why sports will always be the best reality show ever. Let me give you a little bit of background. Jabbar, then known by his given name Lou Alcindor, grew up in a turbulent racial time in the United States. As bad as race things are now, because it's always on TV, this was real stuff, and it's real stuff now. But this was the 60s and 70s when the movements were being made, where it was just openly hostile and stuff. And so Jabbar came along in that area, in that time frame, and he was a socially conscious young man, and he fought against what he considered injustice, which was injustice. He fought against injustice, all the things that he saw around him. And of course, being a young man, the phrase "angry young man" doesn't come along by mistake. That's the way a lot of us come across. I did the same thing. The world was changing, and I wanted it to change right now. But he came across as strong, and being a black athlete, that strength and that chip on your shoulder, kind of put him in not the best favor, and he didn't care. He said what he felt, and it was often, it was him against the world a lot of time, and that was just the way he felt. Then one day, when he was in the pros, his house burned down. And in an interview, he said that one of the things that hurt him the most was that he loves jazz, evidently, and he lost his entire jazz record catalog. Good gosh. 5 months ago, I couldn't say my own name. Thanks to your dollars, now I can say, goodness gracious. He lost his entire jazz record collection in the fire. Later, in a later interview, he said that he was amazed by the response from the people that heard him say that. From all over the country and all over the world, people that he didn't even know and would never ever meet, sent him albums. Albums are a form of recording music on Frisbee-style disc. Go look it up. To help rebuild his collection, he said that he received over 3,000 albums from complete strangers. Kareem remained strong and continued his fight, but this outpouring of emotion from people, I don't want to say it changed him, but it let him see another side of the world, that as much injustice as there is, there are also good people out there who care and are trying to make the world a better place in their own way. And I think that opened him up a little to seeing both sides of the picture, still fighting against the one, fighting the fight, but also realizing that the whole world isn't a dark and evil place. Seeing that people cared and showed compassion for him, not just as a ball player, but as a person, seemed to change his attitude and his life. He ended up on a team with the most exuberant, happy-go-lucky person ever in Magic Johnson, and the two of them brought joy and life to a league that desperately needed it. When Magic and Kareem was already on the Lakers, the first game for Magic, they won on a late last-second shot, and Magic's and I'll never forget this, Magic's hugging Kareem and jumping up and down. It's the first game of the season, and Jabbar's like, I got to tell that kid to calm down, because we got a long way to go. But that's just the way Magic was, and that exuberance and the change and seeing what people did and that attitude helped Kareem become just an icon, not just in sports but in life. So Kareem, get well, buddy. Stay well. I hope things are going well for you. 2 big events are going on this weekend. Well, lots of big events besides basketball, the NHL playoffs. Yes, I know the NHL's still playing. I just don't care. There's a NASCAR race, the Super Fight, and a host of other things. The 2 that we want to focus on right now, the NFL Draft and the Kentucky Derby, are both this weekend. And I want to ask you, which one are you interested in? Do you even watch either one? You would think that being from Kentucky and being a huge football guy, that I'd be all into this. But I got to kind of tell you, not really. Neither one are my thing. Although it's listed as the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, I have never gotten into horse racing at all. I don't bet on the Derby, and I'll tell you why. Ever since Dan Marino signed his first $5 million contract, I realized that he doesn't care that I have $100 riding on this game. So I quit betting on football. And I'm sure that horse doesn't care that I have $100 riding on that race. So I don't bet on horse racing. But I just don't bet on, and it's one of those things, that's part of the joy of horse racing and certain events like that is the betting part, or having something involved. So I don't bet on them. I don't have anything involved. And quite frankly, I couldn't tell you the name of a single horse in the race. Conversely, although I love the NFL, I probably only watch about 5 college basketball games a year. I can name more college football players than I can horses, but not by much. Last night was the first round of the draft. That seems to, this thing goes on for a week. I mean, last night was Thursday night. They're talking about this thing being on Saturday and Sunday. Wow. Tampa Bay took Jameis Winston, which is no surprise to anyone. And Tennessee took Marcus Mariota, which was a little bit of a surprise. They were kind of playing some games. I'm anxious to see, though, what happens, because I get to live in here. I'm forced to watch all the Tampa Bay games to get the football. The Bucs are far short of being a rookie quarterback away from making the playoffs. But if Winston can step up and perform even at a Blake Bortles level, it'll be a huge improvement from what they've had recently. Mike Evans, and the reason I'm excited about this is because of Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a freak show of a receiver, and with him, and if he can hook up with Winston and they can get something going, with it gives you a little bit of reason to at least want to watch what happens next season. So I am kind of, not excited, but I am going to be more interested in watching Tampa Bay play than I have been in the last several years. There was a lot going on with that second pick, though. There were rumors that the Titans were going to try to trade for Phillip Rivers. I talked about that on the Stiff Arm with Ron Mexico. Rivers does not want to go to L.A. If San Diego goes to L.A., he's not an L.A. guy. He homeschools his 7 kids. He's a upright, Christian, don't want that kind of influence on my life kind of guy. So he was like, well, I'll go to Tennessee, absolutely. And Tennessee had talked about wanting him, which would give them a known, proven commodity, as opposed to a rookie who, he's probably going to be probably great, but he's going to be behind a weak offensive line for a while. So there was talk about that. There was talk about they might even just trade that second pick to get other things that they need, like help on that offensive line, and then Philly would have a shot, at getting Mariota, which was ultimately, what was going on. The deal just fell through. Nothing came across, and Tennessee did what they were supposed to do. If you didn't get the right deal in place, get the second best guy, and that's what they got. I'm not sure he's the second best guy, but this, in the draft, Winston was going, so that made Mariota the obvious next pick. So that wraps up, really, for me, all the drama and interest that I have in the draft. Those are the only 2 guys. I mean, I know Gurley is a running back and a couple other players, but basically the rest of these guys are just going to be names on a board. He's this kid out of North Tennessee State. He's 6'5". He's I don't know. Never seen him play. Don't know. I don't get into it till they get into the NFL. So I guess the answer for me to those questions is I'm not going to be watching either event. All my interest in the NFL draft is already gone. And, of course I'll be watching the playoffs, but I'm not watching the Kentucky Derby. So, as far as you and what you are doing this weekend, we'll know what's going on by the next time we have one of these shows. We'll know the whole draft. We'll know who wins the Kentucky Derby. We'll know who wins the Super Fight. So basically the idea that you're going to have to do is whether you're spending 2 minutes in front of the TV watching the race or 2 days in front of the TV watching the draft, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it works out the way you want. Since we've started, let's continue for a minute in the NFL. News is out of the league, and say it with me, Tim Tebow is back. That's right, it's Tebow time again. Oh, God. As if the sideshow of an offseason hasn't been enough for Philadelphia Eagles, they have to bring in the 3-ring circus by signing Tebow to a contract. Mark Sanchez, you got to feel for him whether you like him or not. Mark Sanchez left the New York Jets, where his only competition for the starting job was Geno Smith, just to get away from Tebow mania. And guess what? Now he's the clown car in the 3-ring circus once again. I know what you're thinking. Oh, Charlie, it's no big deal. At best, Tebow's going to be the 3rd-string quarterback. This is no big deal. But let's put on your Charlie India thinking hats for just a little bit. Philly has traded for and acquired Sam Bradford, who at this point looks to be the starter. However, Sam hasn't played much in the last couple of years because his knees are like the rings you get out of a Cracker Jack box. They're glass, baby. And Chip Kelly loves a hurry up, run on the fly, make moves going kind of offense that requires his quarterback to run and be able to move a lot. And when Sanchez got his time to shine last year in Philadelphia, when Nick Foles went down, all he did was lead the Eagles to 4 losses in 5 games and a seat on the couch next to Charlie India watching the playoffs. For a city that booed Santa Claus, this is not the kind of stuff that they want to see. So, with a scenario like that, Tebow comes off the bench and in the game. And before you freak out on that idea, think about this. Tebow can run. He's a big dude. He can run. No doubt about that. He can throw the ball deep, where his long extended wind-up isn't a problem. You have to do that to throw the ball deep. So he's got 2 things going for him. He can improvise, and he performs better when he's on the run than he does when he just drops back. So he's got some things going for him. All these things play right into Chip Kelly's offense. Tebow, well, the only problem Tebow's going to have is the problem he's always had. He just simply can't just drop back and throw a pass. That's the thing that keeps him from being a big deal in the league right now. But all these goofy things that Chip Kelly's running might give this brother a chance. But if he can make it anywhere, it's going to be in Philadelphia. And if he doesn't make it in Philly, then Tim, I know you watch the show, Tim, it might be time to, stick with the SEC, broadcasting. You're a good-looking brother. You're doing a good job. But this is his shot. This is that last ray of hope, that shining moment. I'm anxious to see you. Again, this is one more reason to watch the freak show that is Philadelphia. Bring it on the clowns, baby. I just love this thing. Of course, how can we not talk about the super fight coming up this weekend? Mayweather versus Pacquiao. Unless you've been in a cave, you know everything about this fight. We're not going to sit down and break X's and O's. Again, if you're a sports fan at all, you've seen it. But I do want to know, who are you picking to win? Charlie.india@yahoo.com. I want to know who people are picking to win. And most folks I've seen on TV and on the various shows are picking Mayweather, and it's really hard to disagree with them on that. Although I'm rooting full force for Pac-Man, I just don't care for Mayweather's style of boxing. I don't know Floyd Mayweather personally. It's just a sports thing. I hate the guy sports-wise. All I'm asking is, please, guys, Mayweather, Pacquiao, please don't worry about putting on a show. Put on a fight. Show us who is the best. Like you should have done 5 years ago. I'm doubtful that this is going to be an action-packed fight. But fingers crossed that I'm wrong. The world's waiting. The world's watching. This is the most anticipated event forever. It's just, we want to see this. However, this is what I predict, and again, hoping I'm wrong, it's going to be another tap fest. With Mayweather's going to keep Pacquiao at bay with his defense, because he is the best defensive fighter ever. I'll give him that. And this thing's going to go to the judges, and Mayweather will get the win, and you'll go, what the heck did I do with my $100? Again, I hope that I'm dead wrong. I'll be the first one to be happy to admit dead wrong about the fight if they throw down and throw the fight of the century, and I don't care who wins. If it's an exciting fight, I don't care who wins. I think the only reason I'm saying I'm rooting for Pacquiao is that's the only way it's going to be an exciting fight, is if he gets in there and does it. But if Mayweather brings the pain, and does it and gets into the fight, I'll be happy if Mayweather wins. But patty cake is for children. It's time for the men to get in the ring. Let's go do this thing. Let's wrap it up real quick with a quick look. I love a quick look. Anything I ever do is quick. Well, certain things, but we're not going to talk about those. With a quick look at the World Series of Fighting 20 MMA show. The fights were good, but some of the stories were spectacular. And usually I'm not a story guy, but these stories affected the ring. I'm going to go over the fights real quick. Steve Moco and Juliano Coutinho fought a heavyweight bout. In the first round, 246 Mocha got the 264-pound Coutinho on the ground, got his back, and he started raining punches down on this dude like it was raining in Florida. It was a quick fight, but that's how the MMA rolls, and that's what makes the sport so exciting. These two guys got in, fight only lasted one round, and it ended in a decisive manner. That's what I like about fighting. The feature bout, and I'm going to get these names, I'm sorry. The feature bout was Jesse McElgott Miguel got against David Branch. Thank you, David. I teased you with this fight last week on last week's show. Branch was in control as they headed into the second round. They were standing up and fighting, and it was a good fight. I mean, Branch was obviously dominating this thing, and I mean, Branch was just going at it, and I took him down, took Miguel down so fast that it was just amazing how quick he got him down. And the next thing I knew, really, as soon as it hit the ground, the next thing I knew, the ref was notifying Miguel got next of kin. He was asleep, out. I've never seen anything happen that fast before. Branch put this brother out, and I don't mean like, he's groggy sitting in a chair. I mean, this brother was blanky, teddy bear, get a pillow for this brother, sleeping on the mat. It was a great fight. It was a great display, and this kid Branch, you've got to watch for him. The other two fights had some great stories outside the ring that made them great stories inside the ring. Phoenix Jones, and you should know where I'm going with this already. Phoenix Jones fought Emmanuel Wade in a battle of 175-pounders. The fight was action-packed. It went the distance, which I normally hate, but this fight had so much action in it that you didn't care. You just wanted to see these guys keep fighting. And at the end of the fight, both guys were so wore out that neither one of them could actually get back to their feet. They couldn't stand up. They weren't in the ground and pound. They were just kind of crouched down, and literally people had to come get them and pick them up and move them to the bench. That's how much these guys laid everything out. The cool thing about this fight was that Phoenix Jones is an honest-to-goodness, bona fide, costume-wearing, breaking up crimes in the middle of the street superhero. I kid you not. Go look it up on the internet. Look up Phoenix Jones. You'll see pictures are all over of the costumes that he wears, and he even wears his costume into the ring. He's been stabbed. He's been shot at. He's been beat up trying to help people. He lost the fight on the decision, but more important, and there are plenty of jokes to be had about all this kind of nonsense, but the real bottom line to me is that he's doing something crazy to make a difference in people's lives. And no matter what you think of how he's doing it, and his brother thinks he's an idiot, but no matter what you think of what he's doing or how he's doing it, you got to give him props for being out there trying to help people. The last fight I want to cover is Newell against Condom. I don't know why I forgot to write down their first names, but I did. I apologize for that. The thing about this bout is that Newell is either an amputee or has a birth defect where he has nothing. He doesn't have a hand. He has nothing below right here on his left hand. The thing about, I admire people like that because I know that I'm not one of them. If I were to become paralyzed from the neck down, I'm not painting pretty pictures with my toes. I'm not doing that thing with my mouth to inspire people. I'm not honorable like that. So when I see these kind of things, it does get me. I just know that I'm not that noble. And to see this guy doing stuff like this, not only is he out there, he's out there in an MMA fight with basically one arm. On top of that, he won the fight to run his record to 12-1. This dude has won 12 fights fighting with this, I'm not going to say handicap or disability because he's out there making it work, but with this disadvantage, I'll call it that, with this disadvantage because other fighters have two arms, and in a sport where clinching and grabbing is such a big deal, he's out there with one arm winning fights. And that's the kind of stuff that you got to, no matter who you are, that's the kind of stuff that makes sports amazing. All right, this pretty much wraps up show 6. And we're going to have show 6 because there's so much going on in sports right now. I might be knocking out 2 of these a week. I don't know. It's hard to write the scripts for these things because as soon as you write them, then things change and you have to like I was rewriting this script as late as 2 o'clock in the morning last night with all the playoffs that are going on. Thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate it. You guys have no idea how much it means to me when I go check this thing and there's even if it's just one more watch. Oh, it was 36 yesterday. It's 37 today. Woohoo! That kind of thing. I really do appreciate it. Once again. You can reach me at charlie.india@yahoo.com. You can also catch me on the Stiff Arm with Ron Mexico, which is on YouTube. Look for Ron Mexico 99. That's Ron with 2 N's. You can find me there. Again, I cannot tell you again how much I appreciate the thoughts and the prayers. And, I'll keep you posted as how the wing's going. But let's admit it, I am pretty though, right? Guys, really. This is Charlie India saying thank you very much. And by the way, get out there and play.